Sergeant Penelope McClenan serves as the Junior Missionary. McClenan credits her longtime church affiliation as a major reason for joining the Army and her current role. She, along with parents Henry and Betty Jean McClenan, would frequently attend church and visit hospitals and nursing homes to provide comfort through song or scripture readings. The family also visited the homes of those afflicted with serious illness. In 1999, McClenan became involved with the military organization Core of Cadets as a member of the United States National Guard, where she played a crucial role in helping cadets to become future leaders and understand Army protocol and ethics. She also served as an active duty service work recruiter. From 1999 until now, she has served as a junior minister, altar worker, Stewards Committee and Love Fellowship Tabernacle Rhema choir member at Love Fellowship Tabernacle, the Kingdom Cathedral, where Bishop Hezekiah Walker served as senior pastor. In 2001 and 2002, she served as part of a relief cleanup team with the National Guard's 642nd Forward Support Battalion and supported the efforts of a chaplain rendering pastoral care to emergency responders working at the World Trade Center after the attacks. From 2002 to 2006, McClenan was recommended for promotion to the rank of Sergeant, E5, and switched components to the United States Army Reserve 77 RSC, serving in the Chaplains Department as a chaplain's assistant. In 2002, she was deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq with the 920th Army Reserve Unit. In 2006, McClenan received a medical discharge after being deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq during Operation Enduring Freedom. Sergeant McClenan currently serves as a full-time volunteer at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, working with the Chaplain Service in the Manhattan and Brooklyn VA under the supervision of Chaplain Charles Hall. She joins us to discuss PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the devastating impact it's having on women serving or those who previously served in the U.S. Army. Welcome, Sergeant McClenan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Many people here in the United States have an idea of what PTSD is from the medical community, from television shows or various publications. But I'm wondering, how does the U.S. Army actually define PTSD?
It's considered post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Ah, okay.
And what that is, well, in the military, and that even goes for civilian component as well, when you have seen things very traumatic, sometimes it's like an endless loop tape, like one of those old recorders that it just constantly plays back in your head and you really can't let it go. So you start getting depressed, anxiety, all kinds of things, sleepless nights, because it's just there all the time.
Given that you served in Afghanistan and Iraq, were you ever diagnosed with PTSD?
Yes, I was. During 9/11, I did body removal. At one point, I comfort some of my fellow military friends or comrades. I needed my own comforting, actually, but we were out there because it was not good. It was ugly.
And in terms of the treatment that you sought, was it anything along the lines of what you're now providing in terms of counsel to others?
Well, actually, back then, being in the military, and I'm sure it served in several branches, not just the Army. When you take that oath to be mission ready. And things like that, we supposed to be trained to deal with it and just keep moving. They'll tell you, like when you're in basic training, that is, you get a lot of drill sergeants that will tell you, suck it up and keep moving. So stuff like that, it don't suppose to affect us, but as time go on, it will affect you. And yes, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome, anxiety. Oh God, what else? Insomnia.
Now, women are not allowed to be part of combat units in the U.S. Army. Is that correct?
Well, from my understanding now, that's not really true because women do serve frontline because they have units out there where there are women in it. And again, when you being mobilized to war, it's not a question. It's not like they're going to tell you, okay, you take a back seat and we going ahead of you and we'll be back. You pick up your weapon, your buddy, that's what is considered, and you move on like everybody else. I mean, we're trained to shoot, either maim or kill. And I've never really heard of, I mean, maybe way back when, women didn't serve in frontline, but most definitely I know several women that have served frontline.
Okay, because many believe that they aren't allowed to take part in combat units, and that leaves many to wonder how women become afflicted with PTSD if they're not actively engaged in what's known as the theater of war. So I was just wondering, would you be able to present two scenarios that clearly illustrate how women have been or may be traumatized and eventually diagnosed with PTSD after serving in non-combat roles? But you were indicating that they actually do serve in combat roles.
No, women do serve. I've known women that have served in combat roles, and to be honest, even in some non-combative scenarios, women do end up getting post-traumatic stress because there's a lot of things still going on. Some women get harassed. Thank God that never happened to me. And the way it happened to me, I'm grateful, one, because I come from a very strong background and praying is just something I do.
Okay, if you're gonna go where I think you're gonna go, hold on for that because I'm glad you brought that up because I will be addressing that a little bit later in the interview. Okay,
Okay.
so hold that thought.
Okay.
Now, as far as the symptoms of PTSD, are they the same for women as they are for men?
Oh, I mean, it's classified the same, but again, a female is a female, a male is a male. I mean, we're not identical. Women have to come home from wars and they have to tend to their children when men have the wives to deal with the children. So the post traumatic stress levels can be quite different because as a female, and in my case, my son was a little older, but finding out he was traumatized, but I never seen it that way. Women have it more harder than men because they got to come home from those environment and be the mother, then be the wife, and then try to be who they supposed to be. And sometimes we don't know who we are.
Now, recently, a number of news reports have shed light on women suffering from PTSD, but conversations or studies about war and PTSD in the media and within the medical community have always involved men. Why have women in the military been left out of the PTSD discussion for so long?
I can only speak for me or some that I have spoken to. Society don't really want to recognize women really even to be unserved. They like, we're kind of the smaller equation to the whole, I guess, outfits, if you will. We're little, and it's so used to like the how you say the good old boys
Right.
system, and women don't get acknowledged. But now women, again, like I said before, they're standing up. Some in a positive way, and some not in such a positive way. And that also would make all the other women that have served look bad or like we're not stable. But you have a host of women out here now that's standing up and saying, look, I did serve. And now actually they do have posters that is out because I've, again, seen other women and even like in the system, they so used to men that and again, because we're called by our last names. So 9 times out of 10, I've seen it happen because it happened to me a couple of times. They'll call me Mr. McClenan. And instead of trying to look at the first name, they look at the last name and forget about the first name, and all of a sudden you're considered a Mister. Um, and again, like I said, it's been for years. It's been nothing but men, and now the women coming on the scene. Well, not now, but they, now they're doing things actually that some of the men are doing.
Thousands of women with PTSD that are serving or have served are single mothers. When counseling these women, what have you found to be the greatest and most common threat facing them and their children?
Separation, because people will feel, or doctors, even some family members will feel that the person is unstable, they'll explode, or they just scared the children won't love them no more. From what I've experienced, or they hide from their child, or some of them actually try to give them the world when they have nothing to really give.
We've talked about women in war zones, how they're affected, and the lack of media coverage on this important story. But I want to address another revelation about the military that not only has many in America in an uproar, but it could prove to be a contributing factor in many female PTSD cases. And I'd like to point to the following articles as evidence of that. This comes from the online publication called The Red Phoenix. It was published December 22nd of last year. Reported sex assaults spike at military academies. And I'll just read a portion of this here. Reported sexual assaults at the nation's 3 military academies jumped by 23% overall this year, meaning 2012. But the data signaled a continued reluctance by victims to seek criminal investigations. According to a report obtained by the Associated Press, the number of assaults rose from 65 in the 2011 academic year to 80 in 2012. However, nearly half the assaults involved victims who sought confidential medical or other care and did not trigger an investigation. There were 41 assaults reported in 2010. And this report comes out of the Associated Press, and this actually just broke today. And it says, the headline is, "Sex is a major reason military commanders are fired." And I'll just read just a portion of this. Brigadier General Jeffrey Sinclair, fired from his command in Afghanistan last May and now facing a court-martial on charges of sodomy, adultery, and pornography and more, is just one in a long line of commanders whose careers were ended because of possible sexual misconduct. Sex has proved the downfall of presidential candidates, members of Congress, governors, and other notables. It's also among the chief reasons that senior military officers are fired. Having said that, I'd like you to complete the following statement. On a scale of 1 to 10, the likelihood of women being sexually assaulted by fellow soldiers or high-ranking officials and being diagnosed with PTSD as a result is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say?
It would be a 10.
A 10, you're saying?
Right, because you're saying that if a female get assaulted, and by the time they get assaulted, whether it be one of our comrades or officer, what is the likelihood of them having post-traumatic stress?
As a result of being sexually abused or sexually assaulted.
Absolutely. Let's say a 20.
It's that common.
Of course. Of course.
And have you offered counsel, spiritual or otherwise, to women in this regard?
Yes, I have. It hurts. It never happened to me, so I can't say how they feel. I can only speak in a spiritual aspect, and even that don't help sometimes at all, because again, I'm trying to understand what it means. And again, whether you're deployed, stateside, we took oaths to serve, okay, this country, our country, and to be with your comrades, or whether it be high rank or just a fellow enlistee, and all of a sudden you're being, sexually assaulted by them, you would not think that would happen because we all supposed to be on the same team, if you will. And for something like that to happen, of course, and especially some of the women that are putting their whole life into the military. They figured maybe this would be their life, way of life. And now they got to watch their back every time they move. That can be very trying to one's nerves, emotion, even physical. Because sometimes these things happen and a female may don't say anything. And if your mind is not always where it need to be, eventually your body going to start falling apart. And I try to send women to where they need to go, and prayerfully they do go and seek the help, because I do not have a degree when it comes down to MST, because that's what it is. I don't have a degree in it. Only thing I can give is a smile if they need it, a hug if they need it, or if they just need someone just to scream at, talk to, I try to be that ear.
And as noted, you provide spiritual counseling primarily.
Well, I do spiritual counseling, but then I also do Christian counseling.
Okay. In the majority of your cases where you use spiritual counseling, let's say, has this type of counseling proved effective, or were medications also administered to help the women cope?
Some of the ones that I know personally, they do take medication, and at some point they stop when you talk to them. And some of them have actually started meditating, and to me, I just tell. Everybody kind of grew up hearing at some point the Lord's Prayer, and it is, if to me, it's very powerful. If you really look at the words, it's very powerful. So it depends on the person. Depends on the person.
In terms of long-term treatment for women with PTSD, what changes would you like Army officials to seriously consider?
Wow. Army officials to really take it serious. Because they need to understand that you could wind up being on the other foot. And when somebody telling you something is going wrong, you need to take away from your rank a little bit and listen, because it could be detrimental to the unit. And let alone, besides from the unit, it could be detrimental to the person and then to the unit. And that's not what it's supposed to be about. So, to me, they need to listen a little bit more. That goes for active duty personnel as well as the veteran personnel or the VA. They need to listen and not assume or say that the person is lying or whatever the case is. Because some people, again, like I said before, they don't speak up until one day it just get overbearing and they have to do something.
Finally, what would you say to women, civilians and those in the military, that may be suffering and are afraid to come forward for whatever reason?
I would tell them to speak up, really speak up, because one, you were made and designed marvelously, and you shouldn't have to carry weight like that. There have to be someone that you can really sit and talk to, whether it's military or civilian. You need to speak to somebody that you really trust, and have them to take you. Because that's one thing that some of the women in the network I'm with, we escort women to their appointments. We sit with them and talk with them. And again, you don't have to sit and feel like you in it by yourself, because you're not. A whole lot of women are going through whatever uniform they may have served in, whether civilian or military, because in reality civilians wear uniforms too. You're not made to sit there and hurt. That's not why you were designed at all, because you was designed strictly with a compassion mechanism, and if that's broke, everything else broke. Get help, whether it be a private hospital. For military, they have vet centers if the person don't trust the VA. The key thing is get help, because at the end, it can hurt you or send you straight to your grave. And it's not fair. It's not fair.
Thank you very much for being here, Sergeant McClenan. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and I hope it helped someone.
If you suspect you have PTSD or know someone that does, please visit ptsdhotline.com to find out what services are available to assist you or your loved ones. I'm the G-Man, and until next time, stay cool, stay safe, and stay informed.